And you're taking a live look now at the White House, where leaders say the latest projection from the Treasury Department should be a wake-up call to Congress. The new deadline now gives lawmakers less than a month to act. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is warning Congress to act as soon as possible. In a letter to Congress, Yellen said the government could run out of money to pay its bills as early as June 1st. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says Republicans passed their plan last week. That bill, dubbed the Limit, Save, Grow Act, would raise the debt limit until next March, but only after $4.5 trillion in spending cuts. Democrats are not on board.
I'm concerned about the debt ceiling. We believe we need to make America stronger, not just in our debt, but in our economy.
The only real option that does not hurt the American people is a clean, bipartisan bill to avert default.
The White House press secretary says both sides will get their chance to negotiate next week when the top 4 congressional leaders meet with President Biden at the White House. And here at home, there are some concerns about what to do and how this can impact you if the country does not have enough to pay its bills. So joining us live right now to talk about this is John Creekmur. He's the CEO and founder of Creekmur Wealth Advisors. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me, Rebecca.
Wonderful. Well, I'm curious, so let's get into this. I guess first things first, do you actually think lawmakers will pass a solution for this whole debt ceiling crisis?
Great question. The best place to start is look at history. We've actually had a national debt in our country before we were actually a country, dating back to the Revolutionary War. The only time we have not had debt was actually 1835 to 1837, when President Andrew Jackson did not feel the citizenry should be responsible for national debt. The first time of a debt ceiling was ever mentioned was in 1917. And so at that time they started discussing the debt ceiling. Should they increase the debt in order to pay our bills that we've promised to pay people? And so every now and then, whenever we happen to get to the point of coming up to that debt ceiling, there's a discussion. Both sides actually present facts, and they figure out should there be cuts along the way. Now, sometimes we go to the 12th hour and they get to an agreement. Other times they actually recently have gone past that period of time, and at that point in time, that's when the situation gets a little more dire.
And so let's talk about what this would do for us right here at home if an agreement isn't reached.
I say look at the personal side. And so if you have a car loan or you have a home loan and you choose not to make your payments, then there's consequences from that. And so your credit score gets dinged, ends up costing you more money as far as on your payments, your interest rates, and maybe even your insurances you have to pay. The same thing would apply as far as the federal level. And so at the federal level, if they choose not to raise the debt ceiling, that means items that they promised to pay people, they would not be able to pay. The rating of the U.S. government would actually be decreased, which would cause interest rates to increase, it would cause inflation to go into hyperdrive, and we'd be seeing things economically that we've not seen before here in this country.
And so a lot of people are wondering, is there a way that I can prepare? So what do you recommend when it comes to that front?
I always say you want to always prepare and plan for things in the future. You want to expect that things are going to go well, but sometimes they don't go as planned. And so first steps is you want to begin with the end in mind. And so with all financial planning, you want to consider what are the goal objectives you would like to accomplish in the short term, in the intermediate term, and in the long term. From that point, once you've actually sat down and written those down on a sheet of paper, you want to say, what can I do to prepare in the event that we happen to see the debt ceiling pass, which actually we expired in January of this year. So we're already over the debt ceiling limit, and there's some extraordinary measures that are walking through right now. But what if in the 1st of June they don't come to an agreement? In that case, you want to consider 2 items. The first one is you want to find ways between now and then to decrease your overall debt, specifically with your payments that are tied to interest rates. That would be your credit card debt and your car debt or personal loans. And so if you have an opportunity the next couple of months to find some extra dollars you can put toward paying those down, you want to do that because interest rates will increase, which means your payments will go up. Absolutely. The second thing that you want to do is you want to start looking really at longer term to say how does this play out, not just in the short term but in the long term, which that would mean we would need to increase overall taxation as far as on the citizenry and on corporations in order to pay those payments at higher interest rates. Therefore, you want to be looking for ways actually to decrease your overtax burden legally. There's a number of things you can do on that, but those are the 3 main tips you want to walk through here in the short term.
John, those are great recommendations. And we have just a few seconds left here. So really quickly, what do people need to know about this ongoing situation?
Yeah, and I'd say you want to make sure you start thinking through in history what's happened. The first one is that really a solution will probably happen. Now, it may come with consequences as far as with cutting of programs, but the reality is if we end up managing our personal lives in a really strong way, making good fiscal decisions personally, then no matter what happens on the outcome from the U.S. government, you should be in good shape.
Well, John Creekmur, thank you so much for stopping by the studios today. We greatly appreciate your insight and your knowledge.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And we will have more news right here on WMBD News at 4 when we come back.